Before we start, I am an unpublished rando on the internet. This is food for thought, but you have to decide for yourself. Today we're talking about why we even have rules. I think that's important to cover before we get into anything specific, because why talk about it if we don't need it? There is a fundamental difference between playing pretend, playing board games, and playing tabletop role-playing games. In pretend, there are some rules, but they're just kind of socially imposed. You'll see kids run around and they'll be like, well, you can't do that, and there's really no reason why you can't do that. They just don't like that you did it. In board games, it is just the rules. You are to play in a certain way. It's pretty procedural, you make decisions, but they're not narrative like in tabletop role-playing games, which have rules, but they're a little more loosey-goosey. Not just because a lot of tables choose to leave them out, but because they can't cover every possible scenario that will come up. And so when you get to a situation like, well, I want to throw this dart and see where it lands on the dartboard, there might not be a rule for that. And so you kind of have to negotiate with your table to figure out, well, what does that even mean? So if we're already negotiating those weird edge cases, why do we need rules for any of it? There are a few different takes on this, and I will end with my own. So, most people consider it conflict resolution. I want something to happen in the story, you don't want it to happen, or you want something else to happen. We roll the dice and we follow the rules to figure out who's right. I don't think this is the proper framework, because very often we want to make a check that is not actually opposed by anything. Nobody cares if you climb the rope successfully or not. But you still feel kind of inclined to make a roll to make sure that you can climb that rope. Some people think about rules as math puzzles, like the game is overcoming the systems. And that's a much more board gamey mindset, which is totally fine, people play that way, but I don't think it's unique enough to tabletop role-playing games to help us here. I don't think that's a good enough reason to have a rule. Some people think it's about fairness, to make sure that everyone is getting equal participation, everyone knows what they can and can't do, and that it balances the game of pretend. I also don't think that's super helpful, because there's not enough to enforce that in any way. Most games are written and we do the little loosey-goosey thing. Usually the GM just decides a lot of things. There's no concept of fairness, and a fair game tends to be pretty boring. The imbalance adds a lot of drama. So I think that rules, the whole purpose of them, is to add credibility to the fiction of the game that we're playing. When I want to climb the rope, I don't want to just succeed because I said I want to climb the rope. I want to overcome some obstacle to do it. And by rolling the dice, I feel like I've earned it. I feel like that's reasonable. That is logical, that happened. I think without the rules, just playing pretend is way less satisfying. So every time that I'm making a rule or looking at a rule set, I'm looking at how it adds credibility to the fiction that we're going to play. Now, context super matters here, because some groups, some tables, are a trusting situation. If I'm playing with 3 of my best friends, then we are at a trusted table. I don't have to worry about the GM trying to dick me over, and he doesn't have to worry about me trying to go outside the lines. We know it's going to be fine, so even if the rules are kind of weak, we will fill in the gaps together, and nobody's worried about it. Compare this to a trustless situation, like maybe playing with a new DM, a new group, or at a convention. You need rules to provide expectations for everyone, and to be able to say, like, hey, this is actually not what should be happening right now, whether you're the GM or not. You need to have that shared language and understanding so that when the GM tries to dick you out of your bonus, you can be like, hey, actually, I do get the bonus. And so recourse against the GM in a trustless situation is another reason that we have rules. I personally design all my games for a trusted situation. I don't think that you should play with people you don't like, so it's kind of a non-issue for me personally. But there are plenty of games that are designed for trustless situations, and that can be a valid reason to have rules. So, complexity is easy. You just make all the rules you can think of, you simulate everything, you think about edge cases and how people can cause a problem, but simplicity is the skill. It's the elegance. It's taking all of this possibility and refining it down to a couple of things that provide only the structure that we need to get the result that we want. So consider when you're adding a rule, are you adding it for fairness? Is it just a fun math puzzle? Is it actually resolving a conflict of some kind? Or is it entirely meant to add credibility to the fiction? If you think about it this way, I think you can remove a lot of rules, but you'll also find that some rules only exist to reinforce the fiction. And that's totally fine as long as it's fun to do and satisfying and it feels fair. Also, consider the context in which you are making your game. Is it just a fun math puzzle? Should it be a board game? If none of the rules are resolving actual conflicts, why don't we just do a group writing exercise? Also, are you designing your game for a trusted or trustless scenario? Do people need to worry about recourse against the GM? If there are other ways that you guys think about rules and why we have them, I would love to hear about it in the comments or the Discord. Thanks. Have a great day.